You're about to learn about the world of algae. Did you know that there are two classes of algae? We have our macroalgae and our microalgae. Now the macroalgae are the things like our sea vegetables, our kelp, our nori, our dulse. And our microalgae are things like spirulina and chlorella. So in this lesson here, we're going to explore the world of algae. What are they? What are their benefits, their properties, and how do you begin to add them into your diet? So let's start with the microalgae. These are an area, a food, a classification that maybe potentially you might use, likely you might have heard of, things like spirulina, chlorella, and there's another one called E3 Live, which is more of like a brand name, but it describes again, another type of microalgae. All these algae here, again, as that word describes, micro, they're small, they grow in fresh water, and they're some of the first photosynthetic life forms on Earth. So they have, millions, billions of years of evolution behind them as being that first photosynthetic life form on Earth, and have been, at the base of the food chain. And they've been a part of humans' diets for a long, long time. Throughout the world, you can find these different types of algae, and things like spirulina, even in the kind of modern times, have risen up as potentials to, solve world hunger. We can grow enough protein in the form of spirulina for the world, and initiatives have really tried to bring that forward as a viable solution for hunger and for poverty. So probably its more practical use and how people have been using it here in the West is as a protein supplement, but mostly as a source of green, of that chlorophyll, right? So if we take something like the chlorella here, you can see how green it is. It is said that chlorella contains the most concentrated amount of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, we know to be so beneficial. We have that saying in our culture, eat your greens, right? We're all looking at how to get more, greenness into our diet. If you think about wheatgrass, right, you think, wow, that's pretty green. I've heard it said that wheatgrass is actually about 1 to 2% chlorophyll. Pretty green, lots of greenness to that. Well, chlorella is 10 to 12% chlorophyll. So massively more, concentrated in that chlorophyll. Chlorophyll has many benefits. I've heard it described as like an internal detoxifier, internal like deodorizer, even in that sense. If someone's dealing with, like body odor, maybe a little bit more chlorophyll in their diet could be helpful. And something like chlorella is such an easy way to get that concentrated amount of chlorophyll in there. So you might be adding it to smoothies, to juices, super easy that way. It does also come in the form of, like a pressed tablet. So you can kind of almost like take it like a pill or chew on them like candy in that sense. Obviously not going to taste like candy. It's going to have a really strong green flavor, if you can imagine that. But, still very palatable. My daughter enjoys just chewing on chlorella tablets and enjoys, spirulina in her smoothies. So it's certainly absolutely you can develop an enjoyment for that flavor. Some of the chlorella tabs we have been mixed with certain herbs, like this one here has ashwagandha. There's other ones where it's shilajit and different Ayurvedic herbs that have been combined with the chlorella. So you're kind of, doubling up on your benefits. Getting your greens to your chlorella, but you've got some Ayurvedic herbs in there as well. So main benefit of chlorella is the chlorophyll being so concentrated, but it does offer a lot of other benefits. Really, really high in lots of vitamins and minerals. All these algae are very, very similar in their properties. Like spirulina, the E3 Live, the chlorella, about 65 different vitamins and minerals. Each one is going to kind of vary in terms of the amounts and types that each offer. And we've talked about the chlorophyll as being very high and very beneficial from these algae, but there's another color, there's another pigment that these algae offer. Things like spirulina, they're what we call blue-green algae. So we talked about the green, the chlorophyll. Now that blue part, that's what we call phycocyanin, that pigment. So in spirulina, you're going to see a lot of green, but you're also going to be able to see and notice the blue, the phycocyanin. That's a very interesting nutrient that is somewhat rare now, actually, in the sense that, there's not a lot of blue foods available. You can think of some berries and some flowers that are blue, but these blue-green algae offer the highest amount and concentration of the phycocyanin, that blue pigment. Now, why would you want that? Why is that appealing or beneficial? Well, every spectrum, every color of the rainbow has corresponding nutrients and different properties to it. The blue is known to be very anti-inflammatory. So there's a product out there that E3 Live creates, they call it Blue Magic, and it's an extract of spirulina of just that blue pigment. That phycocyanin that a lot of people use for inflammation. So it's very highly anti-inflammatory. It's good for the immune system, cardiovascular system, has many, many benefits. So the blue, the green, they're in these algae. You can also find some carotenoids, like beta-carotene is in there. Again, 65 different vitamins and minerals in varying amounts and ratios spread amongst these ones here. And super easy to add in. I mean, you can add it to juices, to smoothies. You can also add it to like a savory context. We quite often will do, spirulina salad dressings. That's a good way. You can add chlorella to soups. Start small. Again, partly for flavor. Get used to the flavor. Again, it's a really strong kind of dark, kind of dank greenness in that sense, but certainly not unpalatable, certainly can be enjoyed, and work your way up. Maybe you can start enjoying a tablespoon. Some people who are working with chlorella specifically for its cleansing properties, because of that chlorophyll, that high amount, a lot of people look to it to help detox from heavy metals. Now, if you're going to do that type of protocol, people that are often, doing several tablespoons at a time, therapeutically in that way, but, you're just your day-to-day average consumption, a tablespoon here or two or there is a great way to get fantastic nutrients from the microalgae. So these are, an ancient food that offer really unique nutrition that are easy to add in and offers you quite a diversity of its, the type of food that it is and the genetic that it has that you can easily add into your diet. So that's our microalgae. Other hand, we're going to come back now to the macroalgae, things like nori, right? Probably one of the more familiar forms of sea vegetables that people consume. You go to a sushi restaurant, the nori rolls, nori wraps. That's fantastic. There's kelp, there's Irish moss, there's dulse, there's wakame, there's arame. The list goes on. There's so many different types of sea vegetables. The colors of them are red, green, and brown. Those are the main three different types, and then many different varieties within each of those. Again, we can generally classify them as having a very high amount of minerals, both major minerals as well as the trace minerals. So this is a fantastic way to get in a full spectrum of minerals into your diet. And, when you're approaching sea vegetables, some people love the flavor. Some people love the flavor of certain particular ones. They really enjoy nori, but maybe not so much kelp, or might really love dulse, but maybe don't like nori. So fortunately, there's a wide variety of different ones that have slightly different flavors. And then their uses, their applications, are quite varied as well. So kind of thing you want to add in, really key, really beneficial food to be able to add into your diet. Think about not, did I eat seaweed every day, but maybe did I eat some seaweed throughout the week? And there are a lot of creative ways to get sea vegetables in. Nori sheets, kind of that sushi style of nori rolls. One of my other favorite ways to do it is this idea of a sea vegetable blend that we get from Harmonic Arts, where it's got a number of different sea vegetables kind of broken into small little granules. So you can sprinkle this on soup, sprinkle it onto salads, and it just becomes this nice light garnish. The sea vegetables are potent in their nutrition, in the fact that you don't need a lot, right? You think of it as like a garnish, as a condiment, as something to kind of add in to upgrade and enhance your diet and get more nutrients in. Kelp can come in a number of different forms. You have things like kelp noodles that are out right now. You can get, those kind of clear, like gelatinous-like ones. We have what we call the true kelp noodles, which is literally just the seaweed cut into strips, and you cook that into noodles. You can cook it into soups. You can enjoy kelp that way. You can also get kelp into strips where you just enjoy it as like a crispy snack. There's kelp flakes, again, sprinkled on as like a garnish. You can add them to the base of your soups, to your broths. One of my favorite ways is this guy here, is Irish moss, because of its use as a like a thickener and a natural gelling agent, which you can use in like a sweet context. So when you're working with Irish moss, what you want to do is you'll take the seaweed and soak it in water. And then as it soaks, overnight to 24 hours, it rehydrates. And then you can use it in recipes by taking that soaked Irish moss, give it a little rinse before you pop it in the blender, and you blend it up, and it will gel and thicken, puddings, pies, jams, jellies, whatever it is. It's almost like a pectin found in fruits, and it has that kind of fibrous, thickening type quality. And it's carrageenan that you'll find in sea vegetables, particularly very high in Irish moss, that has that thickening, gelling property. It's a soluble fiber, so it's very soothing and gentle on the digestive tract. And when used in recipes, again, it's kind of like a vegan jello in that sense, gelatin, where it will thicken and gel anything that you add it to. So that's a great property that it has, not only for its health benefits, but also culinary wise, right? And a great way to be able to add in sea vegetables to something sweet, right? You can make desserts with this stuff. So there you have it, just kind of a quick overview of our macroalgae, and think of them as kind of those add-ins to get in the minerals, the diversity that they offer, and then our microalgae, it's vitamins, it's minerals, it's protein, it's greens, it's blue, all those pigments, those wonderful benefits. This is the world of algae. Great to add in. You're going to benefit so much just by doing so.